Welcome into the Saturday Report. Today, we're going through the AP Top 25. If you missed it, which I don't know how you have at this point, but if you did miss it, on Monday, the AP released their official Top 25 rankings, and through a confluence of events, namely my day job getting really busy, while on top of that, trying to simultaneously potty train a 2-year-old, I have not been able to release a video or a podcast since those rankings released. But I did have some thoughts, some insights, some different things that came up whenever I was looking through this top 25, things I wanted to break down, questions that I have. So I wanted to make sure that I still made a video, although I know I am way behind the curve on this. Now, if it's your first time watching us, first things first, welcome. Second thing, please make sure to subscribe. We are trying to get to 500 subscribers prior to week 1 of the college football season kicking off. So we got about 2 weeks left, and we got, at this point, probably about 300 subscribers to go. So please make sure to go down and subscribe. It would help a ton. Now, let's get into breaking down this top 25. The first thing that I noticed whenever I pulled this top 25 up is it seems that teams are broken down into 3 distinct groups. The first group that I noticed is the teams that are ranked number 1 through number 7 right now. And I would consider these teams the national championship contenders, or the nationwide recognized national championship contenders. If you're listening on audio, we've got number 1 Ohio State, number 2 Oregon, 3 Georgia, 4 Notre Dame, 5 Texas, 6 Indiana, and 7 Miami. These are the teams that I don't think anybody would be shocked if they won the national championship this year. They've got the rosters, they've got the staff, they've got the facilities, they're spending the money. All of that comes together to where I don't think a single person would be shocked if any of these 7 teams were to go on to win the national championship this year. The first thing that I noticed, though, when going through this top 7 is that there's not a single SEC team that got a first place vote. Not only in this top 7, but in all the SEC teams that were listed, not a single one got a first place vote at all. That includes Georgia and Texas, who are both in the top 5 this year, which it essentially confirms the narrative that's been placed around the SEC here over this last couple of years, and especially going into this year, which is they've got a lot of teams in that upper middle class, getting into that upper class if you're looking at Georgia and Texas, especially with the rosters they have. But there's not the expectation that the SEC is going to go and field a number 1 team, a la Alabama that we saw 2011 through 2020, 2021. Where, yeah, they're going to step on the field and they're just going to have the best team, they're going to have the best roster, etc., etc. That narrative has shifted into the Big Ten's probably going to have the better rosters. They might even have the better coaching staffs. And because of that, you had Ohio State receiving a bunch of first-place votes, Oregon receiving a bunch of first-place votes. You even had Notre Dame, Indiana, all of them receiving first-place votes as well, but none of them to Georgia, none of them to Texas, Ole Miss, any of these other teams that could have been shown here in this top 5 to 10 range. The second thing that I noticed is that Indiana, they had 8 first-place votes, but they're still in the number 6 spot. And the question that I have here is, what more do you need to see from Indiana? What more do you need to see from Curt Cignetti? I understand not putting them in number 1, maybe number 2, maybe number 3, but to have them all the way down at 6, and along with 8 first-place votes, that means that what I'm guessing is a lot of people had Indiana in that top 3 to 5 range, but a lot more people, or the same amount of people, had Indiana in that 8 to 12 range. I don't think most people put Indiana at 6. The people who put Indiana down in that 8 to 12 range, what more do you need to see from Curt Cignetti? What more do you need to see from this coaching staff to actually have belief in Indiana and put them in that top 5? Curt Cignetti has, over the last 2 years, proven that he can do more with less than essentially anybody else in the country. Taking Indiana from from the worst team in college football history to winning a national championship in 2 years with nothing but him, his staff, and the portal. Yeah, I don't know what else you would need to see to be able to rank them higher, but I would assume that going into next year, if they meet expectations this year, they're going to be a top 5 team, and you just won't be able to deny them. If it were me, I likely would have put Indiana at the 5 spot above Texas at very least. And that's because, yes, Texas is going to have the more flashy names, the more flashy roster. They're going to have the names that people recognize more. However, if I'm going off of a predictive measure of where I think Indiana is going to end up the season, or a predictive measure even of who I would think would win between those two teams on a neutral field, I got to take Indiana right now. The next group of teams that we're looking at are ranked between 8 and 15, or 8 and 14A, 14B, since there was a tie for 14th. And these are the teams that I would consider the fringe contenders. They can absolutely win a national championship, but it's going to take some extra effort. It's going to take a couple bounces of the ball that go their way and not their opponents. They're not those surefire contenders that we're seeing ranked 1 through 7. So, again, for you audio listeners, we're looking at number 8, Texas A&M, number 9, Ole Miss, 10, Oklahoma, 11, LSU, 12, Texas Tech, 13, Alabama, 14A is BYU, and 14B is USC, and those 14s can be interchangeable because they are a direct tie, so I think they just put them in here in alphabetical order. Here's what I think about the teams that are in this range. The first thought that I have is there's 5 SEC teams just squished between 8 and 15. In fact, there's 4 SEC teams squished between 8 and 11. And I think this is going to help. I don't know if help is the right word. I think this is going to further the narrative that there is some sort of SEC bias. Now, mind you, no SEC teams got a first overall vote, and all these teams are outside of that national championship contender bubble. So it's not like they've put, 7 SEC teams in the top 10 or in the top, top 7, top 8. It's that there's just this big bunch between 8 and 11 or 8 and 15 that are all going to go and they're all going to compete against each other, and teams are going to be beating up on each other. And I think this is going to push to the further narrative that when LSU and A&M play, there's got to be a loser. When Ole Miss and LSU play, there's got to be a loser. When A&M and Oklahoma play, there's got to be a loser. And these teams are going to shift. They're going to move up. They're going to move down. There's going to be teams in this 8 to 12, 8 to 13 with Alabama in their range that are going to drop out of the top 15, out of the top 20. They may even go, they may even drop out of the rankings entirely by week 8, week 10, week 12 of this season. And it's going to be painted that these teams, there was an undue bias towards the SEC in ranking them where they did. When the reality is that the AP Top 25, as well as the college football playoff rankings, like all of that stuff, that takes into account somewhat your strength of schedule, your strength of record, but what it really takes into account is your win column and your loss column. And when enough of these teams are going to be beating up on each other, you're going to have a lot of teams with more losses. 2, 3, 4 different losses, even though they were playing overall, on average, better teams. So I think having this many SEC teams squished between 8 and 15 is just going to further paint the narrative that the SEC is overhyped, when I don't think that's actually the case. The second thing that I noticed is Texas Tech is at 12 right now. One of the benefits in making this video a little bit later is that now there's some rumors or some whispers about Castellanos signing with Texas Tech after this new ruling in Louisiana was put out. Now, if that happens, Texas Tech has to shoot up, and I wonder if we're going to see an update from the AP poll on getting Texas Tech higher prior to week 0 of the season. I don't think that's actually going to be the case. In fact, I don't even think they vote at that point. But I think if that were the case, if Castellanos were to sign with Texas Tech and start working out with them, no, he's probably not going to start week 1 for him. Maybe he gets in week 3 or week 4. But if you're Texas Tech, you got time. With your schedule, you've got some time to get him in there, get him to learn the system, get him, get his arm warm again. He's been playing this whole time, so it's not like he's going to need all that much time to get his body in shape and get ready, but he's got to learn the system, he's got to learn the play, the scheme, all of those things. If Castellanos were to come into Texas Tech, I think within the next few weeks, you could see Texas Tech shoot up this top 25 into, at very least, the top 10, if not the top 8, top 6. The third and final group that I'm looking at here are those ranked 16 through 25. So that would be Michigan, Washington, Penn State, SMU, Tennessee, Utah, Iowa, Houston, Louisville, and then Missouri, rounding out that top 25. These are the teams that I have lovingly deemed the party crashers. No, I don't believe they're going to be good enough to go win a national championship, but they definitely are going to be good enough to ruin your party or ruin your season on any given Saturday this year. And this doesn't also bar them from being able to make the playoffs. Notice I said they're not national championship contenders, but they're definitely playoff contenders because I've actually got two of these teams in my projected 12-team playoff right now. I think there's not a world where one of these teams doesn't make the playoff just with how the season's going to end up and how records are going to end up. So all these teams are going to be really good. I just don't think that they have all the ingredients that you need to bring together in order to be a national championship contender. Because remember, now getting into this 12-team playoff, especially if you're not one of those top 4 seeds, you got to go win 4 games in a row to win a national championship against a handful of the best teams in the country, essentially the top teams in the country. So because of that, I would be out on these teams winning it all, but it doesn't mean that they can't make it fun along the way. One thing to note here as well, Indiana was in this exact position last year. So I want to say that you can write off all these teams, but truly you can't. Especially if you expect any of these teams to come and make a major push like Indiana did last year. Indiana started the season last year ranked number 20th in the AP poll. And then Curt Cignetti spit in the face of that, and he went on to win a national championship with a 15-0 season. So nothing is set in stone right now. There's a lot of movement that's going to happen. But these are the teams that are going to be really fun to watch this season and can definitely go and ruin some parties. The last few things that I had questions on or that I wanted to cover here. Number one, where's Clemson? The answer is they're ranked 26th. But I think having Clemson unranked for the first time in a really long time in this top 25 does a couple of things. The first thing that it does is it adds more fuel to Dabo's fire. He has seemingly always coached way better whenever they're the underdog, whether it was against Alabama in those national championship games or whenever it was when Clemson was coming up and they were just little old Clemson, as Dabo likes to say, and he built them into the dynasty that they were or the great program that they were all those seasons ago. This is just adding to his fire that they're starting the season unranked, and he knows how to sell that to his team. The second thing that it's doing is it's removing a ranked matchup from early in the season, which I'm not a huge fan of, but there is no way really around that because this is a game of averages on the AP. I don't think there's any malicious intent to try to take a ranked win or a ranked game from LSU. It's just how the chips fell. But that means that in the first 2 weeks, we are going to have only 3 ranked matchups, which seems pretty low. It's probably on par with what we expect normally. But week 1, we get Ole Miss against Louisville, and then week 2, we've got Oklahoma playing at Michigan and Ohio State playing at Texas. Those are the only 3 ranked matchups that we're getting in those first 2 weeks of the season, and I wish I could see a few more in there, but as we get later in the season, there's going to be plenty of good football for us to watch. That is the last of my thoughts here on the AP Top 25. If there's anything that I missed, please leave it in the comments. If there's things that I covered that you disagree with or agree with, please leave it in the comments. Every comment helps. All of your support helps. Again, please make sure to like and subscribe. We're on the road to 500 subscribers. Only got a couple weeks left, so every subscribe helps there, and we will catch you here next time on the Saturday Report.